Hey mom, how's it going?
I don't know, Lindsay. I'm having a pretty great day. It's the day before a holiday weekend. We got one more week until it's like T minus 10 to a wedding. No,
Yeah, well, except for this episode will come out long after the wedding. Yes.
whatever. It's fine. Whatever. Yeah, it's funny.
We with being out for a couple weeks, we're definitely having to prep these a little bit in advance, but it's not like the episodes are going to age poorly, so it's fine.
So wait,
It'll
you're
be
going to
good.
be a married woman when this happens. Oh my
Yep.
goodness. That's uncomfortable for me. I just about to say.
It's not uncomfortable for me. I'll have a couple more diamonds on my finger and I'll be recently tanned in a European sun. I'll
That's
be
right. Very
beautiful.
true. Very true. Well, today's a good day too because I get to invite one of my oldest and dearest friends in this industry, Mr. Aubie Knight. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
I am so happy to be with you both today. Absolutely.
Aubie, I was thinking about it. I think I met you, wow, is it like 13, 14 years ago, maybe?
Doesn't seem that long ago, but that's certainly quite possible. I mean, I've been, I have friends in this industry, that I've had for 30 years, which is
I know
really,
you
really
do.
hard for me to, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, but it's
I
true.
know. Yeah. So we were babies when we met, basically. I'm going to say that. How about that? Let's go with that. We have both looked a little different, but when I met you, I think you were running the Georgia Association. Is that right?
That's certainly a possibility. That's in my past experience. And it's
Yeah.
hard for me to believe that I've been in North Carolina now for 11 years.
Wow.
That's hard for me to believe.
Yeah. The world's changed a little bit, don't you think?
It sure has, and will continue to do so. And that's the part that I try to spend a fair amount of my time thinking about. Right, it's changed a lot, and I've had the opportunity to talk with people about some of the changes that I've seen in my what is becoming like this vast 30-year career now. It's been a lot of changes, but then also just trying to look forward to like what's next, what's coming, and what do we need to be in tune with so that we stay as relevant as possible.
Do you have a secret crystal ball you've been holding out on us with, or?
No, I wish I did. I wish I did have. I wish secret ball.
I wish you
Yeah.
did too, because I would force you to share it with us. But
It's kind of funny though. I think about it sometimes, and like Nostradamus is one of those famous historical figures that quote predicted the future. And I've read some theories about that. And to some extent, just predicting the future is just being really good at analysis and kind of looking at current trends and looking at what's going on in your environment, and then producing logical outcomes from that.
mhm.
So I think we all have a crystal ball to some extent. It's just how far out does our crystal ball look, and how accurate are we with analyzing what future outcomes are going to look like what's the logical conclusion.
Yeah, as Sid Rowe said on our podcast on our very first episode, we're all humans with a capital H, and we like to do the same dang things all the time. So history is going to repeat itself no matter what.
Yeah, good. That's
Yeah.
I
good.
totally forgot she said that, but yeah, you're 100% right. So, Aubie, tell me from your perspective, because you've been leading a state association for many years, North Carolina specifically for 11. Tell me how that's changed, how independent agents view associations, what the role of an association is, because you guys are doing some pretty cool stuff. And I'd love to hear from your perspective how that shift is happening.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's associations used to have sort of a monopoly on a number of different areas. Conventions, for instance. Like if you wanted to go and meet with a whole bunch of company partners and meet with a bunch of fellow agents, conventions through a state association, either state or national, like that's how you did that. And now there are so many conferences and conventions out there. I can't even attend them all. That's all I would do is attend conferences and conventions. I'd never be in the opportunity to get work done. And it goes beyond, it goes far beyond just conventions. But I think conventions and maybe information are two areas where for a long time associations enjoyed monopolies, right? If you really wanted detailed information about what was happening in the industry, like trends, legislative involvement, like you had to go to your association, and that was where you were going to get really high quality, reliable information on those things. It's the only place that you could go and network with lots and lots of other people that were in your same profession. And now we don't have monopolies on those things by any stretch of the imagination. There are a lot of for-profit companies out there that as part of their operations are now doing some of those other things. And in many instances, they do them very well. Interestingly, like the one thing that we still have the monopoly on is the governmental affairs and the advocacy and the lobbying. And unfortunately, that's a difficult business model, right? I mean, that's an expensive, complicated proposition. And there's a good reason that nobody else wants to do it, because it's expensive and it's hard and it's widely unappreciated. People don't appreciate the legislative and the regulatory advocacy because you can't see, well, if you keep a bad thing from happening, it's hard. Like you never see like what that alternative future would have been if the bad thing had happened. So it's really largely unappreciated. And the fact that you receive the benefit of those efforts, whether you are a member of the association or not, that's also a difficult part of the proposition, right? Like you're going to do the lobbying.
That's the trickiest part. That's the trickiest part, right?
Yeah, it really is. So that is sort of, where we've been historically. And what I think about and what we think about every day is like, how do we evolve so that we become valuable in other, in other ways? And I think that's a big part of when you look at some of the initiatives that we've launched at IANC. It's part of that. It's like this recognition, this acknowledgement that we don't have a monopoly on some of the things that we used to have a monopoly on. And so we have to create value and evolve what our value proposition is.
So I think when I was on staff at IINC, a lot of these things were really starting. And it was really cool to be on staff at that time. I learned a lot. And actually, one of the things I talk about most to agents, I just talked to an agent yesterday about InsurAcademy. And I recently had time to hang out a little bit with Rebecca, who, for the listeners, is the COO over at IANC. She's awesome. And learned that you guys are even kind of creating a little bit more around InsurAcademy. It's not just entering the industry now, but it's actually, okay, cool, you're in the industry now, you're a CSR, but what do you do from there? And I think standardized programs like that are going to be becoming incredibly important. So can you just talk a little bit? I don't want to make this entire thing an InsurAcademy whole shebang, but it's something that I find a lot of agents are interested in, and I'd love for them to just hear a little bit about what is it and why is it important to INC.
Yeah, and give me some kind of signal if I start rambling too much, because I could talk about this for a long time, because
me too.
It has been the most fulfilling program that I've been a part of, the most fulfilling initiative that we've launched in my 30-year career of doing this. It has been an opportunity to really change people's lives. And so just to give you as brief as I can, just the origin story, part of our environmental scanning is us asking our members, like, what are their biggest challenges and biggest concerns? And right now we've got a little bit of a blip, like with the hard market, like that all of a sudden has risen up and has become a big issue. But I think that's, if we know anything about insurance, that's likely to be a cyclical component to that. But what has been a constant over the last 10 years that we've been looking at this is talent development. Like, where do I find the next really high quality employee to come into my agency? And if I do find a really high quality person, like on my own, how do I go about getting that person trained up to speed so that they become a productive, valuable member of the team? So about 4 years ago, we started this initiative of InsurAcademy, which is a free vocational training program that we offer to folks in North Carolina. And then at the end of this between 4 and 6 week program, they come out of it with an insurance license and with some other training that is important to be a new person in the industry. There's some E&O training, there's some technology training, there's some business etiquette, there's some forms training, et cetera. So it's been incredibly rewarding. And I know that this won't come out for another several weeks because somebody's got to go off to France and get married. But if you go back and look at a LinkedIn post that I shared this week, it was from an InsurAcademy student, and it just really epitomizes the the satisfaction that you get from this. Like, this is someone who was working in retail management. They had a terrible quality of life from, working the day after Thanksgiving until 11 o'clock at night, and they got one weekend a month off because they were working at their job. And there's nothing wrong with working retail, but it may not be what you want in terms of balance and career path. And so she took the leap and joined InsurAcademy, and she's awesome. She's fantastic. And like, we were able to play a part of that. And there's probably not an InsurAcademy class that goes by, that graduates, that the team here at IINC is not getting a fruit basket or flowers delivered or something like that. And it's from a student who's going, thank you so much for changing my life. I now have this great job with an agency, and I am so appreciative. And then we've got member agencies that are going, thank you guys so much for building this program. I'll never not be a member because you guys hooked me up with this wonderful employee who's going to be a great addition to the team. And you're like, man, if that's not a win-win, it just makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I don't know what is. It's fantastic.
Aubie, I just did a presentation and it said that something crazy like 40,000 people are going to leave the industry within the next year and a half. And if we're not doing something to draw people in and train them and prepare them to come in, it is not a 1-for-1. Like, that, by no means am I saying every exiting person is going to be, replaced with another human being doing the exact same job. But there still is this is a relationship business. So there is a lot happening that's changing in our world. But if we're not doing something to help solve the number one thing, which is this is a people and relationship driven business, we got to bring people in. We're not really solving a problem. So I love InsurAcademy that it's literally speaking to that. It's helping people create a pathway, and it's demystifying this whole insurance thing. Like, nobody thinks it's a great place to be. Let's not keep it a freaking secret. Let's actually teach people about what it is to work in this industry,
Yeah, and for us, a big important shift was that we just had to take control of this. We've been talking about the problem for a long time as an industry, but at the end of the day, what are you doing about it? Like let's really try to solve the problem, or at least get, like, the problem's larger than what IIANC can solve, right? We're not, to some extent, maybe it feels like we're trying to, warm the ocean, and it's a huge thing, and we're just putting a little heat to it, but we're making a difference to our members. So now that we're 4 years into this program, we've graduated over 150 people that are now employed, with our member agencies, and that's fantastic. It's not solving the problem, but it's making a dent in the problem. For years, we tried partnerships with the various universities. We tried invest in educating high school students about insurance, and we tried partnerships with the community college system. Like, we tried to partner and promote insurance among some existing institutions, and the outcomes were mixed at best. So it's like, look, let's just start our own insurance school. Like, we'll start our own insurance school, and we'll do this. And now, the next iteration, and Lindsay, you mentioned in your conversations with Rebecca that, now that we work on the next iteration of training, and we have a whole roadmap of what we think InsurAcademy will look like 5 years ago. And we plan on it being a pretty comprehensive learning platform for people within a variety of roles and variety of experience levels throughout the industry.
Yeah.
I just think it's incredibly valuable. I think the InsurAcademy program is incredibly valuable for supplying agencies with employees. And I think the other big initiative you have in 101 Weston Labs is incredibly valuable in supplying the industry with some really needed technology, that we don't live in the Stone Ages and have to write on stones and throw it at a carrier building in order to get a deck page over to them, which is when I joined the industry and I found out that people still fax things regularly to each other, I was like, excuse me, what? What? I don't know how to do this. I don't know what this is. I thought this was fake. I didn't realize that faxing was real. So tell us a little bit about 101 Weston Labs and what that has looked like in its journey.
Yeah, sure. But I'm gonna start with I'm going to start with a story first, Lindsay. So when I started with the Independent Insurance Agents of Georgia in 1996, the fax machine was like our newest and one of our newer pieces of technology. And it was fantastic. We had and then we got email. And we had access to the internet, but only on one computer in the office. There was a computer that sat out in the middle of the bullpen, and if you wanted to access email or the internet, you had to go and sit at that computer to
Oh
access
my God.
the internet. I was recording a podcast with Vishal from KAI last week, and he asked me about just some of the technological changes that I've seen in my time. So I had to share that story, and it's really it's crazy because now over 10 years ago, so I was still at the Independent Insurance Agents of Georgia, and I had an intern, and I asked him to fax something because it was to someone who probably didn't have email, right? They're like, oh, well, we don't do that via email. Like, you've got to fax it to me. And so I asked the intern to go and fax a document. And he comes back like 10 minutes later, is like, dude, I need help. Like, help me. I don't even know what this is. Like, what? So that was over a decade ago that this has been obsolete technology, but yet it's still hanging
There's
on.
still, yeah, there's
It's
still
lurking
carriers
around
that
in the
work like that.
shadows to some extent.
Yeah.
Um, I've always been a big believer that the future was computing. I mean, like you needed to learn computers, you needed to embrace computing power because that was the future. And so it's been 15 or more years ago. I think 2008 or 9. I was doing seminars in Georgia about why agencies should have a Facebook page, and how do you go about using social media to establish your brand in your community and generate leads. And then in 2010, at the Independent Insurance Agents of Georgia, we formed a company called Agents Go Digital. And Agents Go Digital was all about managing the social media for our member agencies. So
That's cool.
we would send out, and I hope to God we didn't do this via fax. I think we were probably doing it with email. We'd send out a form every week to our member agent, to the agencies that subscribe to this service, saying, tell us about a success that you had with your agency where you saved a client some money this week. Tell us about a success you have with a successful claims outcome. Tell us about something that's going on with one of your staff members, a baby, an upcoming wedding at a castle in France. Like whatever the case might be, like tell us something good. And then we had the generic posts that we would come up with, like, oh, it's Memorial Day weekend. Are you traveling? Have you checked the air pressure in your tires? That sort of thing. So we were managing the social media for probably 30 of our member agencies at the time.
Holy moly.
Like, what we couldn't do is we couldn't figure out how to scale it. Like, for every 25
Yeah.
or 30 agencies that we had, it took me a whole new staff person. And so we were only charging our member agencies like $250 a month to do this.
Jeez.
So the revenue
Yeah.
per employee wasn't really adding up, but
That
it was a
doesn't
great
matter.
service, and it opened up this whole concept that you need to be on social media. We were running, I don't think you can even do this on Facebook now, but back then we were running lead generation campaigns. Like, hey, the agency's doing an iPad drawing. Click this button to enter the drawing, and if you'll give us your X date on your home and auto insurance, you get 5 entries. That sort of thing. So an agency would give away an iPad, and we would run these Facebook campaigns and generate 500 personalized leads for them.
That's
And so we were
awesome.
doing this back in 2010. So I've always like leaned into like what's out there. How can you leverage the new thing to benefit your insurance agency? And so that led to lots of conversations with early stage companies that would be like, hey, we've got this cool new product and we'd love to introduce it to your members. And now at this point, I've transitioned to the North Carolina Association, and we engaged in the very traditional association model of thinking like, okay, great, we will do some marketing for you and we'll tell our members all about this cool new product that you've built. In exchange, I would love for my members to get a really nice discount and maybe even some revenue sharing back to the association if my members buy your product. So that's sort of the traditional association mindset of talking to a vendor or a services provider. And that led to, yeah, well, that's cool. Let's talk about that. Also, by the way, would you be interested in investing in our company? We've got an open seed round or an open Series A round going on. So that led to us taking some equity pieces in some insurtech startups over the years. And we probably did that about 6 InsurTechs before 101 Weston Labs. And candidly, it was kind of a haphazard process. I would cobble together a little group of agents. We'd sit through a demo and then we would make an investment decision. Fortunately for us, we were never a lead investor. We were always following someone else's terms that had conducted due diligence and set the terms of the deal. But still, it was haphazard. Mm-hmm. We've been pretty fortunate that those companies, they're all still alive. We've had one successful exit out of that. But all of that to say is like, I wanted a better way for us to partner with, to vet, to work with, to understand the InsurTech companies that were trying to enter the independent agency space. So I had this crazy idea of we'll just start our own InsurTech accelerator. And when I say we would start it, I pitched this in partnership. Like I was like, hey, I think the independent agency system needs to own an InsurTech accelerator that is focused on solutions that are coming into the independent agency space. Like, let's do this. Like, let us do this. And frankly, there were not a lot of hands that came up in the air and said, yes, we want to spend a lot of money to nurture and work with early stage technology companies without any sort of guaranteed return on that investment. So I had exactly 0 hands that went up and said, yes, we will help you with that.
I imagine it's a risky investment for a bunch of risk advisors to want to go
risk
in on.
Risk-adverse people, yeah.
Yeah.
100% it is. And it still is. It still is. Now, we have de-risked this concept that there's opportunity to really impact the industry here. So long story short, like 3 years ago, I pitched this idea to my board about starting an InsurTech accelerator. I set forth a budget of what I thought this would cost us just to operate the accelerator. They approved it. One thing that makes us a little different here at IINC is I think like as we start looking at, and Carey, this may go back to your earliest question, like how are associations evolving, or how should they be evolving? One, we're not evolving fast enough. And when I say we, I mean, I look in the mirror and that's my biggest worry. Like, I don't want to be known as the most innovative association out there. I want to be known as one of the most innovative business organizations out there, because being the most innovative association may be akin to winning the turtle race, right? You don't want to be just the most innovative association. But it's like it's a 3-legged stool though. Like, you got to have somebody driving the innovation. You have to have somebody like, hey, what if we try this and let's do this? And then you've got to have a board of directors who's willing to say, yes, let's try some new things. And then you have to have the resources to make it happen.
That's right.
And the one thing that I was really blessed with, and it was part of my motivation to come to North Carolina to begin with, is I didn't walk into a situation where the association was hurting. Right. I mean, I walked into an association that was doing very well financially. They had they've got a very healthy balance sheet. And so our board has, like, what I have done, what I think if I'm going to pat myself on the back here for a minute, like, the one thing that I've done is, like, what are we sitting on all this money for, guys? Like, let's
do something.
Let's invest in our members. Let's build products. Let's build some services that will solve the problems of our members. And let's spend some of this legacy money that's been sitting on our balance sheet for a lot of years. And so we went through, a period of time where my board did not hesitate to adopt budgets that had a significant amount of red ink, because we were investing, like we were investing in the future of the association. Then it turns out, and this is one of the really coolest things ever, we passed a lot of budgets that had red ink, and we never had outcomes that were red ink. Like even when we were making significant investments, we always end up with surplus at the end of the day. It's amazing how when you do the right thing and when you evolve and try really hard, like, the money finds its way to you. Right. Yeah. So that's been our experience, and it's been really cool. And Weston Labs has been a phenomenal thing. And Pat and I bet I've had 7 calls this week Weston Labs related, and whether it's InsurTech startups that we're not working with, like yesterday, Carey, we had the advisory call with our newest entry into Weston Labs. We had a call last week with the head of Munich Ventures, which is like Munich Re's InsurTech investment arm. And they're
Nice.
like, you guys keep coming up in conversation. We just want to
Want to
know,
say,
who
hey,
are you? Who are you? What the hell are you guys doing? And it's totally not like what we're doing doesn't fit in with what they're doing, right? They're writing multi-million-dollar checks and buying controlling interest in companies. That's not what we're
mm,
about.
right.
But
But you know what?
you've gotten their attention.
But I
Yeah.
do hope to get a little sponsorship money from the guy so that he can come to pitch day, because one day he may want to buy controlling interest in these companies that we're working with, right? He might see some
Right.
solution there. So it's been really cool. Like InsurAcademy has been like the most rewarding thing that I've done in my industry, and Weston Labs has been the funnest thing. So
Yeah.
it's really, really cool.
So Aubie, if this is an agent listening to this and they're like, cool, I need to hire people. Awesome. I'd love to know more about tech. Like, how do these things connect to an agent that would be listening here? Like, how do they get involved? How do they learn more? Like, tell me how, because you're doing all these things. And listen, if you're on the INC board, because you're getting hammered with tech that wants to try it out in your agency, or they want to ask your advice or whatever. I shouldn't say it that way, but your people are very involved. But if you're sitting somewhere else that you don't know about this, I'd love to broaden that and say, how do you get involved? What does that look
Yeah,
like?
absolutely. And it's let's start with Weston Labs, because that's probably a little bit of an easier answer. I think we've got a network of over 120 agencies from all over the country that help us with Weston Labs, right? They've all raised their hand and they've all said, hey, when you guys come across new companies that you think have enough merit to warrant joining, belonging into the Weston Labs program, send them to us, and we'll have a conversation with them. We'll sit through a product demo. And these early stage founders, of course, they want customers, but they gain incredible value from hearing, no, that doesn't fit for us, and here's why. Right?
Yeah.
That's incredibly valuable for them. So we want to establish this feedback loop, and we've got over 100 agencies that have said we'll have that conversation, and that's super important. If I could clone Rob Bowen in New York and put 5 of Rob Bowens in every state, like it would be
Be
such a
amazing. Yeah.
it'd be amazing, right? Because
Yeah.
Rob is awesome. He refers companies to us because he's got such a great reputation for being a lean in on technology. So sometimes an early stage company, they hear about Rob Bowen before they hear about Weston Labs, right? So they go to Rob, and then Rob's like, no, you need to go talk. You need to have a conversation with these guys. And so we've got agents from all over the country that really help us. So if that fits an agent that's listening to this podcast, like, let us know that you would love to have conversations with early stage companies and to see what's out there and what's coming. And we'll be happy to kind of put you on that distribution list and make those introductions when the time is right. As for InsurAcademy, a little more complicated there. We have partnered with other states on InsurAcademy. We don't keep any proprietary secrets. Like, if somebody wants to duplicate what we've done, like, hey, here's the roadmap, here's the recipe, here's how we did it. If you want to build your own, have at it and let us know how we can help. If you're involved with your state association, ask them if they're partnering with us or if they're thinking about trying to duplicate our efforts and do their own version of InsurAcademy. One of the things that has made InsurAcademy much more difficult from like a nationwide collaborative effort is state licensing laws, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's pre-licensing requirements are different. The exams are different. And we are seeing a movement across the country right now to do away with pre-licensing education requirements. So
Like
I
all
think,
of them altogether?
I think it's like 16 states that have now eliminated pre-licensing education requirements. You still have the pre-licensing, you still have the exam. So you still got to pass the license exam, but there's no prescribed course that you must take before you sit for the exam. So in North Carolina, there's a prescribed course. Like, we have to deliver a 40-hour course, and it's way more granular than that, right? The 40-hour course, like, we've got to talk
Must
about state
include
laws
this
and
and
ethics
that.
for 2 hours, and we've
Right.
got to do homeowners for this, and you got to do so there's like this prescribed course that we must deliver in order for someone to go sit for the exam. Where a lot of states are doing away with that. As more states do away with that, it would make doing this type of a program on a national, regional, multi-state basis a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
Because then I don't have to, like, okay, we're going to talk about North Carolina law and forms, and that's not relevant to people in 49 other states.
Right.
That's
Right.
been the challenge with InsurAcademy, at least the initial version of InsurAcademy, which was to bring new people into the business, get them licensed, get them employed. Now, the next iteration of InsurAcademy, which is, okay, now let's set them up on a career path that provides them with learning tracks that are applicable to their job description. And that's going to be the one of the things that we think is really going to set us up like as a differentiator. Like, we want to know, okay, Lindsay was hired to do this job, so here are the skills that she needs to know. Let's do assessment testing. Here are the things that Lindsay already demonstrates really good knowledge of. Here are the knowledge gaps. So let's build out a career path that says you need to know these things and you don't really have mastery of them yet. Take these 7 classes to increase your mastery in those areas. So that's what we're building out. And then we're coupling that with some couple of unique things, which are live webinars every month, and then mentorship. So we have a mentorship program that's part of InsurAcademy, so that every week new people can sit down and just have kind of a live, almost like a fireside chat with more experienced people and go, hey, I'm having this problem. I'm like, what do you do when you have an underwriter that won't respond to you? Like, whatever challenge you're going through that you would like to talk to maybe somebody more experienced who's not necessarily in your office.
Boss.
Yeah.
Right. You can ask them the dumb questions and they don't judge you or think you shouldn't get a raise, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Was that
Aubie,
was that
it's
an
perfect.
in-depth enough
Absolutely
answer? Are there any
perfect.
follow-up questions you'd like for me to?
Here's what I'm listening to you and hearing, though. Like, I love that you're solving real challenges that agents are facing, but I also love the abundance mindset. Like, we're not here to be the one that's holding on to this. We actually see this as a real problem, and we want this to be nationwide. And if the way to do that is partner, great. If the way to do that is build it, ask us. Like, that abundance mindset is what is going to change this industry, which I greatly appreciate about you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Carey.
Yeah. Well, Aubie, we could do this for hours, honestly. And I'm sure this is not the last time you'll be on the podcast. I have no idea why it took us so long to bring you on the podcast in the first place, but I enjoy talking to you. We could do it.
You guys have great guests
ever.
always on the podcast, so I've taken no offense that my invite was late.
It's like, what the heck?
We talk all the time, Carey. I guess to some extent, it's like, oh, this is like a conversation you and I have regularly. But now let's record this one.
Exactly. They're just not recorded for other people to listen to, right? Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. Lindsay,